Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hi everybody, welcome by a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest. It's Ryan Daniel Beck. He's the owner and director of bodyART training studios. Ryan has a very inspiring career being a high-performing dancer. He has danced for MTV, Beyoncé, Black Eyed Peas, MOMIX, and many more. He has produced and directed content for ABC, Good Morning America, Celebrity Cruises, Rock Café, and has traveled to over 30 countries as a sought-after instructor. Ryan recognized that all the training, just like a lot of other disciplines, don't consider the long-term effects on muscles and joints. And that's when he discovered bodyART. It's a system that takes a physical therapy-based approach to movement therapy. Ryan saw the potential and now has the exclusive rights for all bodyART-branded studios locations in America and has done that since 2018, when I'm correct. Hi.
That is correct.
Ryan, welcome. So tell me about this bodyART, because we had a little pre-talk and I thought, it's almost like a market disruptor, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, there are two industries. We have the fitness and the wellness, the high performance sport industry. And we can say that these are movement activation. These are movement enthusiasts. And then we also have the clinical, very medical, physical therapy industry. And we live in a space which is just in between both of these. We are adjacent to the fitness industry. We are adjacent to the clinical physical therapy industry. But we realized that there was a big problem on both sides that we were able to solve and create a unique, innovative solution that we call physical therapy-based training, or PTBT.
Nice. So you're combining the physiotherapy in your classes and using movement, music, and stuff like that, right? It's like a training hour, but also on recovery from injuries, right?
Yeah, so we facilitate experiences that are highly immersive, very sensory. We use music, we use lighting, but the actual content is coming from physical therapy protocols. And these are designed to prevent injury, reduce pain, and create sustainable longevity. Unfortunately, most of the time when these protocols are being used, they are in a very clinical, sterile environment that doesn't allow people to connect on a deeply emotional level. In fact, for many people, it's a trigger. They walk into a space where the lighting or the environment is making them feel maybe a little bit uncomfortable, or they say, I find that it's very boring or it's very repetitive. And so it's important to understand that for something to be accessible and relevant to the user, it also has to be engaging. It also has to be something which captures your imagination or takes your mind on a journey. I mean, we understand this is the power of art, because when you read a good book or you watch a really beautiful movie, time can go by very quickly, right?
Exactly.
And so we realize that it's important to give people the content or the substance, but also in a way which has some style, which has some immersive quality.
Nice. And I just love the idea that you go for a training hour, and instead of having muscle pains, you don't have any muscle pains anymore, right?
Correct. I mean, we have to get a little bit specific. So there are two different type of sensations that people can experience.
Mm-hmm.
One is called DOMS. It's called delayed onset muscle soreness. And this is actually a very common sensation that people experience, especially if they have not been active for a very long time. So this is normal. And this is a sensation that you will experience when your muscles are starting to recondition. But this is a very different sensation from pain. Pain is a very different sensation. And we want to make sure that people can actually identify the difference. You know, muscle soreness, like from if it's delayed onset from reconditioning the muscle tissue, maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it actually, in a sense, it feels that your body knows that it's getting stronger. And so you can say, I feel a little sore, but it feels kind of good because I know that the muscle is starting to work and activate.
Yeah, and it also validates that you have worked, right? That you did a good workout. You got a little bit soreness in your muscles.
I mean, I think this is more of an older. There are many things that the industry is now having to realize is not medically accurate. So, for example, we have to be a little careful because why your muscle will feel sore is the result of a few factors. So, for example, you could make the same movement on 2 days, and one day you're sore, and the next day you're not sore, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And this could have an effect. This could be connecting to how much sleep you're getting, how much hydration you're having. Also, social effect, like if you're going through a really stressful relationship or a divorce, these can all actually have an effect on if your body is going to feel sore or not.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's not only the physical activity. So we have to be a little bit careful with this in mind, because if people are using the soreness as a metric to determine if I did a good work, then it's not accurate.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying, because the mental body and the physical body are very interconnected. You know, you can't separate them, so to speak. So I totally get what you're saying. So how did you get introduced to body art?
Yeah, so I was, as you mentioned before, a professional dancer for many years. I grew up in Los Angeles, and my background was involved with acrobatics, and I was doing a lot of film and television and movies, and this was a very exciting part in my life, but it was very heavy on my body. It was it takes a toll, and so when I was towards the end of my 20s, around 29, I started working with a physical therapist. I was working in Singapore at the time, and I started to ask myself why all the information which was given to me from the physical therapist is not part of my training. And I said, this is, of course, I learned how to make the foundation of classical ballet, and I learned how to make the foundation of acrobatics. And I said, why didn't I learn the foundation of longevity? Why didn't I learn the foundation of sustainability? Because the protocols that are used in physical therapy are very specific. They're designed to help the body maintain in a good way for a long time. And I said, this could be very useful for me as a dancer. And why do I only have information after I'm having a problem?
Yeah.
Because it would be great if I can have this information before. So this was the first moment that I had a little question in my head. And later, a friend of mine who was a dancer introduced me to Robert Steinbacher, who is living now in Zurich. And they were saying to me, the movement that you're using when you're teaching your classes, it's similar to this other guy. You should meet him. And my first reaction was actually resistant. I said, "Oh, it sounds like something for fitness, and I'm not interested because I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm a choreographer, I'm a creative." And I noticed for me that when I was in a fitness space, there were a lot of things that for me did not feel aesthetically inspiring. Maybe the smell of the gym, or the movement, or the music, or even the lighting. All of it was just feeling very harsh. It was feeling very aggressive, or sometimes obnoxious. And so for me, I'm a dancer, so I liked environments that were very aesthetically well designed and had this kind of sophistication. So when they told me that it was something connecting to fitness, my first reaction was to be very resistant. But then eventually I met Robert, and immediately we understood that we were both very passionate about injury prevention. We were passionate about sustainability, longevity, and also because he was a dancer with Janet Jackson and had a lot of performing experience, it was important to him that the environment, the atmosphere, the experience was a high quality for the clients. For example, we make some changes. We don't say, this is a class. No, it's experience. And we don't teach, we facilitate. And for example, I'm not an instructor, I'm a movement specialist. And if you come to the class, you're not a client, you are my guest. So there are some ways that we psychologically prime people to understand that this is something which is a different experience. It's something which is for the biopsychosocial, we say. Bio, which is your body, psycho, which is the emotion, the mental, and the social, which is your connection to the environment. So
nice.
in a short way, this became something that we started to collaborate, and I started to bring it to the dancers in New York. And then from there, we started to understand that it was very valuable for dancers and also for runners and for people that are practicing yoga, and people that are just coming out from surgery, like knee surgery or shoulder surgery. Mm-hmm. So we have a very adaptable system that can work very well with physical therapists when people are working in injury recovery, but also for people that are not seeing a physical therapist as a way to prevent injury.
Nice. And I can totally relate to the fitness studios, because when I was practicing judo, I did a lot of fitness to gain some muscles, but it's all isolated exercises, and just a lot of repetitions with different weights, but it's always the same. So I can imagine how boring it can become indeed. So and it's wonderful what you said, and actually also funny that something that you were very reluctant to became your biggest strength.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, it was to understand that something that I was very resistant was an opportunity to then create a solution. So for example, many times they ask, what is the problem that you're looking to solve? And so for me, my hesitation or my resistance towards the traditional approach to movement, which is the fitness industry, was actually the catalyst to create something which is offering now an alternative to people. There are many people who love going to the gym. It's about 20% in the United States. They love going to the gym. but there's 80% in the United States who hate the gym and they hate fitness. And
Yeah.
I think this is sad because at the end of the day, movement, not fitness, movement should be something which gives you joy. It should be something which makes you happy. And how do we know this? Because kids, when they are in school, what's the favorite part of the day?
Besides the pauses, I guess gym.
Yes, I mean, when you can go outside and play with your friends.
Yeah.
For kids, it's movement. You know, this is why we say adults, they work out. Adults, they go to the gym. Kids don't work out. Kids don't go to the gym because kids play. And so for them, it's just movement. So I am very passionate about helping to reimagine people's relationship to movement.
Nice. Would you say that this it's also the way you put it, it's reconnecting people with the inner child as well? Because we love doing this as a child. Why should we stop doing it as an adult?
Yes, 100%, 100%. I think that on a deeper level, there are qualities that children have. And so when I think about inner child, I think about the qualities of curiosity. I think about the quality of exploration, discovery. I think about playfulness. I think about imagination.
Yeah.
So for me, we can say inner child, but I think that when I talk to adults, people who are working in a corporate situation, these are the words that I use. I talk about imagination. And it's funny because now we understand from psychotherapy that, okay, we say imagination, but we're actually talking about the difference between visualization and anxiety and depression. So, one of the things we talk about in psychotherapy is what if? And if you are not really learning how to manage your anxiety, your stress, the what if can be very negative. It can be very detrimental. What if I lose my job? What if my marriage is going to shit? What if? But, kids, they understand what if in a completely different way. They say, what if I'm going to be an astronaut? What if it was a magic castle with a princess? What if? So it's the same part of the brain, but being used in very different ways. So I believe that adults can learn how to use what if in a more positive way.
Yeah, nice. Great example, by the way. So do you create your own trainings, or do the trainers themselves create their own program for the lessons? Or how do you call their experiences?
Yeah, so the best analogy that I can give is an algorithm. So if you think about text or text, you have a system, and we can take, for example, a very simple algorithm. We say X plus 2 equals Y. So you have input and output, right? So if whatever the input is going to change the output. So body art exists as an algorithm based on fundamental physical therapy principles, but it's going to change a little bit depending on what is the input value. So for example, if we say X plus 2 equals Y and X is 2, well, okay, Y is 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I say, okay, X is Irwin. So I say, Irwin, I go into the body art algorithm, and then I say, okay, this is what Irwin's going to do. But it's going to be a little different if I'm working with somebody, for example, who's in a wheelchair. It's going to be a little bit different if I'm working with somebody who is a CrossFit Ironman competition or a bodybuilder.
Yeah, I
this
can imagine.
This is a very interesting thing, because when we facilitate experiences, we have a very, very diverse group of guests. So in one experience, maybe I have somebody who's a bodybuilder, a professional athlete. I also have somebody who's maybe in the 70, 80 years old. I have somebody who's pregnant. I have somebody who maybe has a knee surgery or shoulder surgery. And everybody is actually is experiencing this moment together. It's pretty cool.
That's cool indeed, because a lot of group lessons in the traditional gym, so to speak, you have to be able to follow the instructor and do the same exercises, and that's not for everybody. So instead, this body art experience can be experienced by totally different people at the same time, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. So again, I was talking about words, and I love words, and I think words have so much power, and I'm sure you agree. So in the traditional fitness environment, you will often hear the words option, and you will often hear the words level. So in this type of classes, you will hear the instructor, and also now in yoga classes, you'll say, okay, this is option 1, and this is option 2, or this is level 1, this is level 2, right? But the problem is that there is a psychological implication. There's a psychological narrative. So when you use those words, the person who's taking the class, they understand that there's a hierarchy. They say this, and then this, and then this. And for some people, this is very intimidating. They say, oh, wow, I must be very low level. And then for some people who have a more aggressive personality or a more competitive personality, they say, okay, I want more. Okay, so you have these two type of people. But because what we're creating in the PTBT, it's not in the fitness world. It's in a different space. Like I said, physical therapy-based training. So we use the word variation. We say, okay, here's one variation, and here's a different variation.
Nice.
So if you want to work on flexibility, do this variation. And if you want to work on strength, do this variation. And we want you to customize. We motivate our guests to choose. It's very important, because at the end of the day, only you are responsible for the choices you make for your shoulders, for your knees, for your hips. Actually, I can't be responsible because I have my own shoulders and my knees and my hips. I have to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, nice.
But if you change the word to variation, then people have psychological freedom to customize. And, it's strange because we live in a world which is very customizable. If you want to order purple Nikes with purple and pink dots, you can go on the website and you can customize and add exactly the Nike that you want to have, right?
Yeah.
And for example, now we have these service where you can have the food which is delivered to your house, and you just make, okay, I don't like tomatoes, and I didn't. So it's all customized. But when it comes to movement, it's very competitive. So we want to help people understand that no. When it's movement, it's got to feel good, because psychologically, you are wired to be very consistent with things which feel good. If it feels good, you're going to want to make it again and again and again. And this is the process where we start to see transformation.
Yeah. And it's also, it gives people the ability to discover what they like and what they don't like from variation. And I love this concept, what you're using about variations. There's no competitiveness anymore. You can't say, oh, did you level 1? I did level 2, It's just what variation did you choose? Something like that, and everything is okay. And I love how you're using the language to actually help and transform your guests. They're not clients, they're guests.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Wow. So what's currently the because you're granted the rights to deploy body art training studios all over America. How is
Yeah,
that going? You started in 2018. Is that right?
correct. Yeah. So in 2018, we started to raise capital. So we went
Mm-hmm.
out to funding uh, funding partners, and we were able to secure our first investor at the end of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know what happened in 2020.
Yep.
um, and fortunately, the investor that we were able to secure, she was extremely supportive. And she said, I understand that this is a very tough time. So it's important that you survive. So we were able to have funding to get to this point, 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, I realized that I had access to a number of VC funds that I was going to approach. And then from there, I realized that there were other VC funds that I could create connections and applications. So over the last 2 years, I actually submitted an application for over 200 VC funds.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long process, and there are a few that I have had more in-depth conversations. But VC is tricky because they're looking for a valuation that is at a point where you can scale, and
Yeah.
so we are technically considered early stage or seed round. So at this point, I'm still looking for one or two individual investors so that we can actually build and create our proof of concept. So this is a studio that we will create, which is curated aesthetically to, as I said, designed to facilitate these experiences.
Yeah.
We've had amazing partnerships with Google, Citibank, Louis Vuitton, KPMG, Unilever, and we've created experiences for their employees in a corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
But it shouldn't be a surprise that corporate setting is probably not ideal for creating experience. So
Yeah.
it's really important now that we have our own space. And so for that reason, I have been talking to accredited investors. But it's if anyone's never had this experience of going through this process, it's very similar to dating and finding your spouse.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
you know.
I, yeah.
And there are many times you meet people, and for a variety of reasons, the connection is not right. So it's very important because, especially at seed round, you're looking at a relationship which is going to be it's going to be existing for anywhere between 5 and 10 years. So
Yeah.
it's really important that you have the right person who understands the mission. And so, for example, when I'm having this conversation with you and you say, wow, it sounds like this is a very innovative and disruptive concept. On one side, that's fantastic. But on another side, it can feel for some investors like a big risk because it's new territory.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And like you said, it's you're building a relationship, either it being a business or private. It's indeed like dating. You should there should be a match together because you're bound to get into a relationship for several years. If you're going to agree on giving this a go, and it's another one night stand. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
you
it's
don't you
important. It's important that both parties align with the vision you have, the mission, and also with the core values, because your core values define the result at the end. And
Yeah, and I will
yeah.
say I will say that one thing which is a challenge is that many investors in the halo sector. The halo is the health, active lifestyle, outdoor sector.
Yeah.
A lot of these investors, by nature of the market, so the fitness industry has always been very cyclical. So there are trends that spike and then they go out of fashion. And then there's a spike and they go out of fashion. So this is why, for example, you have people who have 5, 10 pieces of exercise equipment that are now in the attic with dust, just sitting there, because this is the way that the fitness industry generates new interest from season to season, from year to year. And so when you're watching on TV, you say, oh, this is the new thing. Oh, this is the new thing. This is the new thing. And so the investors typically look for something that they have a very quick return on investment. So you can sell many units and then pull your money and wait for the next season and sell more units and then pull your money. And what I'm looking for is an investor that has a little bit more long-term approach, understanding that we are really disrupting the relationship to movement. This is not something that is going to have a short shelf life. This is something which actually transforms your relationship to movement for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. Might have some connections for you that we'll discuss this afterwards. But I'm in love with the whole concept, and I truly believe that it has such great growth potential, And are there special experience for kids, for instance?
Absolutely, 100%. It's interesting because when you look at kids, as I said before, they have many of the qualities that we hope to reignite with adults.
Yeah.
Things like curiosity, exploration, discovery. Pablo Picasso had a nice saying. He said, every child is born an artist, but the challenge is to stay an artist as you get older. So the interesting thing is that there are ways that we can really help kids using the body art system in connection with child psychology. So when we think about kids, we understand that there are different periods of psychological development. So the period of, for example, around 5 to 9 years old, and then the period from 10 to 12 is very important. And then the period from 12 to 15 is also very important. After 15, we recommend that the kids, they can come and participate with the adult body art experience. So we have, for example, people that are coming with their kids. I mean, they're kids, but like 17 years, 18 years old. And as I said, our experiences are very inclusive. So we have a lot of different ages, and everybody is customizing the experience according to what they're needing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Could you share an example or a story from people that have experienced the body art training and how they felt afterwards, what it meant for them?
Yeah, I mean, I have many stories, but I would say, I had an experience, and I'll leave the details a little bit vague because it's a sensitive subject.
Yeah, of course.
But I had a client, a guest, and she was the type of person who was very aggressive and very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And when she came in, her hair was like in a ponytail, like a helmet, like very.
Yeah.
And when she came, again, I allowed her to customize And she wanted to create an experience that was very dynamic, very energetic. I said, okay, no problem. Because I'm also living in New York, so I have experience with these types of people. We say no chill. They can't chill.
Yeah.
So I was working with her for about 3 months. And after one of the experiences, she came to me and she's crying. I said, are you okay? And she said, and you have to remember, this is a very tough woman. She's very tough.
Yeah.
So it was strange to see her crying. And I said, are you okay? And she said, yes, I'm actually okay, but I'm feeling a little shaken, a little unsettled. And I said, why is that? She said, in the end of the experience, did you have some lavender on your hands? And sometimes I use aromatic as a sensory tool.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I did. I had some lavender. She said, yeah, so 30 years ago, I had a sexual assault when I was 14 years old. And after this moment, the doctors had no explanation, but I lost my ability to smell. And she said, I didn't smell anything until tonight. And I smelled the lavender.
Wow.
And she said, can you explain to me what's happening? And I said, it's very interesting that you asked this. And I said, thank you for telling me, because this is a very sensitive subject and it's difficult to talk about. It's not something that you have casual conversation.
No.
And she said, yes, I'm interested. So one of the things that we talk about in physical therapy is that, and this is also connecting to traditional Chinese medicine, but the front of your body is the feminine. It's the part which has the soft body, and you have the stomach. It's also where you're connected to the mother, the button. And the back of your body is the masculine. It's the part which is the hard, the bony, and you can put the backpack if you're going hiking. It's designed for carrying weight.
Yeah.
But one thing that we found in physical therapy, also in psychotherapy, in traditional medicine, is that when there is a trauma, the back of the body is round to protect. And you see this in also animals. If they have abuse, they protect the front side and the back side is taking the trauma.
Yep.
But the problem is that this creates a lot of tension in the back of the body. And one thing we know is that everything in the body is connected. So in the back of the body, the bottom of your foot, where your toes, is coming to the back of your heel, called the Achilles tendon. And then it's going to the calf muscle, and then it's going to the hamstring muscle, and then it's going to the gluteus, the butt muscle, and then it's connecting to the neck through the back, and it coming all the way over to the nasal passage where you smell, the olfactory.
Yeah.
And so when you have a trauma, anytime the back has a tension, it can affect your ability to smell. And so one of the protocols that we use is a release tension for the back side. And it took about 3 months to release the tension. But when it was finally ready to release, she could smell. So it's nothing about magic or religion or something like spirituality. It's actually very scientific. And so this is what she experienced. And it was pretty cool because it was not something that I was telling her as a message. It was something that she experienced in the body, which is the bio, in the mental, which is the psycho, and in that environment, which is the social. So she had a bio-psycho-social recovery.
Wow. That's indeed a great example what body art training can do for a person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, I'm afraid we can talk for hours on this subject, because I love the mental state, the physical state, and I'm loving our conversation. But do you have any tips or little pieces of wisdom for the audience that they could use if they want to follow their passion as well, or start their own business?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say is that cliches. You hear so many cliches. I see so many things on LinkedIn or on motivational posters, and as I've gone through this process, I've realized that all the cliches are true, but I would say most of the time they also have an asterisk.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you hear a quote or a motivational phrase, it's true, but there's usually some part that's also needing more clarification. And I could come up with a couple, and I often will post these. I'll say, this is the phrase, but there's also something else that's for example, it's all about who you know. So yes, that's true, but it's also about the quality of the people that you know. So it's not about who you know, it's about the quality of those people that you know. That's also very, very important.
Yeah.
I also would recommend understanding. Jeff Bezos had a phrase called the 10 dark years when he was in the garage selling things out of his basement, and it was for about 10 years. He called it the 10 dark years. One thing that I've experienced is what I call the decade of pity. And it's not self-pity. Yeah, this is very important. It's not self-pity, but you just have to understand that if you are following your passion and you are starting a business, or you are wanting to do something which is not mainstream, you will have many, many, many people who care about you, who say, I'm looking for your best interest. And they will say to your face, or they'll say to other people, oh, it's so sad that he didn't follow in a more comfortable way, or he didn't go in a more secure path.
Yeah.
So you just have to be aware that people will pity you, and then when things start to happen, then they say, oh yes, I know this guy for so long, he's my best friend. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah. That's wonderful advice, and that's also what I tell my clients as well. That I work with the subconscious mind of my clients as well, and I always say that the subconscious mind has a positive intention, right? It wants to keep you safe, it wants to protect you, take care of you. And what better way to do that than to keep a person in its comfort zone, right? Because everything is more or less predictable in your comfort zone. And when you are pursuing your passion, you might step out of that comfort zone. So it will be a little bit sometimes awkward or exciting, right? But when you're changing, you're stepping out of the comfort zone of the people close by. Mm-hmm. And they see you change, and they want the old you back. So that's what I come with this pieces of advice of, it's so sorry that, are you making the right choice? Are you sure? And those things, right? And it's because you're changing yourself, you're transforming. So you're stepping out of their comfort zone as well. And that's what they have to deal with, not you.
Yeah, I call it well-intentioned doubt.
Exactly. Yeah.
I understand that the intention is good, but actually, to your point, I think that it's also connected to their own fear. And to see you doing something which is outside of the comfort zone, which I call opportunity zone. So outside of the comfort is the opportunity zone. So when they see you, then it's on a subconscious level, a little trigger for them because it's also connecting to fear.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Nice.
I also say that with passion, it's also important to understand that, there is a question when you make a big decision in life. Are you familiar with the sunk cost theory?
That doesn't ring a bell yet.
So sunk cost is like if you're working on a project and you make a perfect example. Sometimes people are married for many, many years, and they understand that the marriage is not working, but they stay because they sunk so much cost into the relationship. They made so much investment. So it's very difficult to walk away from a marriage or a relationship or a business if you put so much investment into the business, right?
Yeah.
And it can create a decision pattern which is not maybe the best. But on the other hand, sometimes you have something which is a project that has a long evolution where you have to stay consistent. So how do you know? How do you know if it's a situation that you should actually quit and start something else because it's not going to work? Or how do you know if it's something that you continue to push, you continue to motivate, you continue to be patient? And I think the answer for me is really the passion. Because if you are in a situation where you say, I can't give this up because I put so much time into it, but every morning I wake up and I just really don't want to do this thing, probably you should stop.
Yeah.
But for me, I can say that even in the most difficult times where I said, I don't know how I'm going to survive, I'm still very passionate about going and making these experiences for the people because it's what I love to do.
Yeah.
So actually, I can't stop because I found my passion.
Yeah, exactly. I had a discussion years ago with my mother, when I decided to start for myself. And she said something like she was very proud of me, and she found very brave that I would dare to make that step. But she also said I had to set aside some money for my retirement. And I said, I totally understand where you're coming from, right? But I'm going to do something that I love to do, that I want to do every day. Why should I stop when I'm 65 or 67, right? I can do this. I can still do this when I'm 80, when I'm 90, right? Why should I stop when it's retirement time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally get what you're saying. Great. So if people want to know more about you, Ryan, or want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So if you are on Instagram, you can find us at bodyart.nyc. You can also connect with us online at bodyart-studios.com. And if you are an accredited investor and you'd like to talk to us about investment, there's a tab on the website, which is the investment opportunities. And we can send you the pitch deck and we can send you the business plan. But all of that is on the website, which is bodyart-studios.com. And if you're in New York, come and visit us. And we also have a lot of content which is available and accessible online that I can send to you on both Instagram and Facebook.
Nice. It was great talking to you, Ryan. I really loved the conversation. I hope a lot of people find inspiration as well from this episode. And let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? check out my website, millionairelifestrategy.com, and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.